tuned in to the Andrew Lawton Show.
Kris Sims is the Alberta Director with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation and joins us every Monday. Once again, always good to see you, Kris. Thanks for coming on today.
Likewise. Thanks, Andrew, for playing that clip again.
Yeah, do you feel, again, this is the whole carbon tax rebrand that we've talked about in past weeks, where they say, no, the problem isn't the policy. The problem is that Canadians don't understand it. And their effort to do that is by just disingenuously claiming that we're all better off. And again, he says it's basic math. If we're all better off by the tax, if we're profiting from this, then what was the point of it all? The only mechanism by which this makes sense for the government is if it's penalizing people.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack here. I just wanted to say to your viewers who are sane, we know, okay? We know what he's saying doesn't make sense. We know that the tax will make you poorer, that it doesn't make you richer when the government takes more of your money, okay? All of that is established. What we're going to try to break down here is some of the pretzel-like twisting and thinking that the Prime Minister is trying to engage in here. Okay, so number one, exactly to your point, Andrew. If the carbon tax actually costs you nothing, or you get magically more money back every single time you pay it, well then, where is the stick? Where's the deterrence for using oil and gas products? Because some people might forget, with all this bafflegab that the Prime Minister is putting out, the Liberal government of Canada put through a carbon tax in order to punish people for using things like oil and gas. So gasoline, diesel, propane, natural gas, kerosene, you name it. If it comes from oil and gas, you're going to get carbon taxed on it. Their thinking, way back when they first invented this thing, was that they would stick you. They would hit you with the stick until you moved over and switched to another energy source. Problem is, most Canadians, the vast majority of us, do not have access to an affordable, abundant, alternative energy source. So there's nothing to switch to. So it just turns into a punishment. So that didn't work, okay? Even if we only emit less than 2% of the world's global emissions, fine. That still didn't work because people still need to drive to work and heat their homes and eat food. So then they had to change their comms plan. It's like, oh, okay, we're not robbing you blind. We're actually making you richer. That flies in the face of the idea of a deterrence. That's the whole point of this carbon tax, was to make stuff more expensive so that us dummies would switch to other things. But that's not working out for them.
No, and the hilarious thing is that if you were to do something, if you were to enact a policy that makes people richer, my goodness, are there better ways to sell that? Like, hey, everyone, here's a free check. Like, this is just, it makes you feel you're being hoodwinked. Well, I mean, you are being hoodwinked, but the government's saying, okay, you pay us, $1 more every time you do this, then we're going to give you $5 every quarter. And you're thinking, well, okay, this is how con men speak. This is how con men try to sell you on things. They come up with this scheme that makes it so convoluted and complicated where it sounds good, but you know you're getting screwed at the end. And that's the thing here. I mean, Canadians need to know they're getting screwed because otherwise there would be no point. And again, the government's even abandoned this because originally it was a price on carbon. Sure. Pollution shouldn't be free, which in and of itself is based on a premise that's incredibly flawed. But at the end of it, I'm waiting to see the 8 in 10 Canadians that are supposedly better off.
This is it. So again, you've nailed it. So let's move on now to the magically 8 in 10 Canadians are better off. Okay, so just on the surface of it. So I don't know, lots of people have lots of different types of jobs. But do you remember that time where you're in a coffee shop and this long lost buddy from school sits you down and starts explaining this new investment scheme he's got going? It's a pyramid scheme, okay? You give him money, he gives the other person money, and then you magically at some point get your money back. Meanwhile, he's taken off to Mexico somewhere. This is what this is, okay? But he just happens to be in a suit and tie and be standing in front of a TV camera, so it all looks official. So don't even take it from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, okay? Like, we've been fighting this forever. We literally have the bumper sticker and the t-shirt. We know this. Fine. Take it from the Parliamentary Budget Officer. Okay, it's an independent, arm's-length government watchdog that keeps an eye on their spending, okay? Just the spending. This year, the average Alberta family will be out $900 net that is with the rebates factored in, okay? Like they've done the math on their big calculator, okay? And the way they do that is, of course, the carbon tax isn't just you filling up your little Honda Civic, okay? And spending around $8 to $10 extra every time you fill up in the carbon tax. It's not just that. It's your home heating, okay? It is the food that the trucker had to haul to your grocery store. It's the food that the farmer had to grow, keeping his poultry barns warm and his grain dry. All of this level of taxation cascades through the economy, and you, dear taxpayer, are the ones who pay it. The Parliamentary Budget Officer, to their credit, did all of that math. They said, no, it's not just your little rebate that you might be getting from your local gas station once you're finished filling up. No, it's the cascade of that carbon tax effect. And that is why Alberta families are out net $900 this year. And further, it just, to your point, I'm so glad you described what gaslighting means. Because a lot of times I think people just use that term and they don't realize how awful and insidious gaslighting is, right? It's, to put it in a more simplistic term, it's like you're in the schoolyard and the bully is like grabbing your own hand and hitting you with it. And he's saying, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
I have an older brother. I'm familiar.
Yeah, me too. I got 3 of them, right? And so, name 10 chocolate bars. I still shudder, right? So this is what the Prime Minister is doing here, but on a macro scale. And he's taking money from people. And it's just fundamentally unfair, which is why we're now seeing, I think it's 7 in 10 premiers saying no more carbon tax. I think the tide is turned on this.
Yeah, and then Wab Kinew, the NDP premier in Manitoba, being very coy on this. But this is actually a good segue into some news in my own province, Ontario. No, don't boo. Bonnie Crombie, who's the new minister, or the new leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. Now, this is the party of Kathleen Wynne and Dalton McGuinty. This is like one of the most rabid, radical, environmental parties in the country. When they were there, this is the country or the province that brought in cap and trade to Ontario. That terrible record on this. That brought in the wind turbines that just there's no business case for. So Bonnie Crombie, the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, has said that if she wins the election and she defeats Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives in 2026, there will be no provincial carbon tax for consumers. Now, this is a big development. And I mean, the Overton window, what this tells me is that the Overton window on the carbon tax has shifted where you can't really be elected without opposing it. And provincial governments are getting this. Provincial parties are. You have NDP leadership candidates in Alberta saying no to the carbon tax. You've got the Ontario Liberals, the Newfoundland Liberals, everyone but Justin Trudeau.
I know. He's the last one to get it. Right? I sent it to my friend. I said, bring an umbrella because pigs are flying in Ontario today. Like, I want to go get, those dollar store fairy wings you can get, or angel wings. I want to go stick them on Porky the Waste Hater, our big, our pig mascot in Ottawa, and make Franco do cartwheels on Parliament Hill with it. So, to your point, and again, I lived in Ontario at the time when the Liberals were in charge, and they destroyed the affordability for your power bill. So I remember distinctly myself, we had a very small bungalow that we were renting. We were using natural gas for heat. I was obsessively doing laundry like after midnight using only LED bulbs. And our power bill was still more than $400 a month. And I was getting off easy compared to some like Kathy Katula and some of those folks who were living in more rural areas that were getting power bills that were more than $1,000. So the reason why I'm telling you this little story, because it doesn't sound like carbon taxi stuff, the same geniuses who invented the Clean Energy Act in Ontario and ruined people's affordability, they scurried up after they got booted out of office. They scurried from Queen's Park. Guess where? They scurried up to Ottawa. They're the ones that created the legislation for this current federal carbon tax, my friend. And so that is why Andrew and I are highlighting this. Guys, we have to keep an eye on these people. But politically speaking, bringing it around full circle, to your point, to have that same party leader now, so different lady, same party though, and she's leader, saying no provincial carbon tax, how things have changed. So I don't know what's going to happen. Like, is the Prime Minister going to, see the lesson here and cave to politics? By the way, sorry, dude, but you're a politician. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but you're in the arena. It is your job to listen to people and respond.
No, it's like the number. It's like the number one thing you do when you run for office. You come up with an excuse to say I'm not a politician, but it's like, well, because I tried that when I ran for office in 2018. It's like, I'm not a politician, but I was a politician at that point. It doesn't mean I was like every other politician, but once you're elected, like the pretense is completely gone.
It's like, dude, your name is on a lawn sign. Like, I'm literally watching you, like, kissing babies and shaking hands. Like, you're a politician. So this is it. So we can't pop the champagne on this yet. There's still a long way to go. But it's really good to see the narrative changing, as the kids say in school, on the carbon tax. Because a few years ago, you might remember the former leader of the Conservative Party even was totally in favor of the carbon tax. He was just calling it something different, and we were going to get a solar blender.
$12 or whatever,
Yeah, exactly. Just like Canadian Tire, but you get an e-bike.
So let me just ask briefly about this. So Doug Ford has said that he does not have the latitude that, say, Scott Moe does. So Scott Moe, they've just stopped remitting the carbon tax, but they also have a pure Crown Corporation energy provider, which Ontario does not. And so that argument makes sense. But do we know the mechanism that Bonnie Crombie is proposing here so that she can get rid of this consumer carbon tax?
I think, now I don't want to speak for her, but my understanding was that if there were no federal tax, she would not bring one home to roost in Ontario. So she's not pledging
to do like the Scott Moe thing of just like somehow exempting from the federal.
Hey, if she could, all the power to her.
Like, I was going to say, I might even vote for her if she can do that. Yeah.
Hey, you want to throw shoes at our bad boyfriend, girl? I will help you. I will send you shoes to throw at this man. So the same way that Danielle Smith is doing here, the Premier of Alberta, it was funny. She was like, how on earth do I do what Mo did? Do I create this little shell of a Crown Corporation? Like, we don't usually like Crown Corporations, but I understand the usefulness in this particular fight. So she's trying to figure out how to do that too, because she's in this kind of friendly competition with Premier Scott Moe next door on how much each of them can stand up to Prime Minister Trudeau.
Yeah.
A little note though, and again, I'm speaking directly to the people who love your show, who are probably fans of the Premier. Like, I personally have an awful lot of time for the lady. Jurisdictionally, though, she's doing something wrong. She's going to be increasing the provincial fuel tax here on the same day that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is jacking up the federal carbon tax. And, like, it's just math. This is nothing personal. That's not good. She's increasing it by 4 cents a liter. It's on schedule. On April 1st, the provincial fuel tax is going up 4 cents a liter. And federally speaking, the carbon tax is going up 3 cents a liter. So not a good look. Like, so the Alberta Premier's really got to pay attention to the home roost here and not jack up her fuel tax, especially on the same day that Prime Minister Trudeau is jacking up his carbon tax.
Yeah, very well said. And judging by your t-shirt, your kind offer to the country still stands that for the low price of $1 a day, or $1 a year.
That's right.
You will be Her Excellency Governor General Kris Sims, which, you know what, we could do a lot worse. Pretty much anyone else would be worse. So, all right, Kris, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.